Hey guys, happy Saturday. Today is April 10th as I'm recording this. We have one field of beans planted from last week, and right now we're kind of just waiting to see what this rain does and how quickly it dries out next week. But today I just wanted to give you an idea of the questions and things that farmers are thinking about in the decision-making process this time of year. So it being pretty early in April, we're really considering three different things: soil moisture, soil temperature, and the forecast. Soil moisture is important when we're deciding how early to get out there to start, knocking down stock ground or really any of the things that we do, because the more moisture you have in your soils, if you go out there and it's too wet, you will be causing more soil compaction, and this isn't something that you really want to be doing ahead of planting. Another thing is soil temperature. So for corn, you want ideal soil temperatures to be around 50 to 60 degrees and on a warming trend. Soybeans, on the other hand, are a little bit hardier, so they can go into cooler soils. But if you are going to do this, you have to plan ahead and make sure that those soybeans are treated. What I mean when I say treated is it means that there's a coating on each individual soybean that typically consists of an insecticide and a fungicide. Now, the reason that this is important is because when you're planting the seed into cooler conditions, it's going to take longer to get out of the ground because, obviously when it's warmer out, things grow better. So take what we just planted this past week. One of our salesmen informed us that it will probably take 13 to 15 days before that seed gets out of the ground. Now, during that 2-week period, that seed is susceptible to many different things in the soil, including insects, fungi, bacteria, etc. So we want to do all that we can to give that seed the protection it needs in order to make it out of the ground, not rot, and still be healthy and viable, which is obviously necessary. Now, when we are looking at our 10-day forecast, when we are looking last week, it was looking like this next week. Nightly temperatures and the lows were between anywhere from 35 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So, that is not particularly warm. And so that's why we weren't going out there getting too crazy, putting too much in the ground yet, because, those soil temperatures are still pretty cool. So we're going to wait and, see what this rain does, see how quickly it dries out next week, and kind of go from there, because hopefully by next week we'll see that there's going to be a warming trend, and then, we'll be at a little bit lower risk when it comes to planting our crops. Something else that's really important to consider is frost. So with soybeans, when that plant comes out of the ground, it's actually, the growing point is above ground. Those are the cotyledons of your soybean plant. These are not technically the first set of leaves, but these cotyledons are what holds the nutrients and energy for that soybean plant to grow until it has its first set of leaves and can start photosynthesizing for energy. Now, when we get a frost, if it reaches 28 degrees for 3 to 4 or more hours, that soybean plant will not survive. So this is something that, we need to take into account. And according to one of our salesmen, when that soybean gets out, in the field that we just recently planted, say April 22nd, by that point, there will still be a 30% chance of a frost occurring, or it reaching 32 degrees or below. So we're hoping that by the following week, when we hopefully can start planting some more, we will be decreasing our risk of our soybeans getting frosted, because if it reaches that temperature for a prolonged period of time, it is inevitable your soybean plant will die and you will be out there replanting your entire field. So, these are some things that we have to take into consideration, because there is a direct positive correlation to earlier planted crops, allowing that seed and that plant to have an even longer growing season, to harvest that much more sunlight, directly correlates to higher yield potential in the fall. So, we're trying to weigh the decision making of how early do you go out there and put those plants in the ground, and how much are we willing to risk? Because, considering the frost or cool enough temperatures to where if that seed sits in the ground for too long, it will rot. So, if you have really cool temperatures in your forecast and you have, say, heavy rains coming, it is likely or possible that that seed may not ever come up, which is something that a lot of farmers dealt with last year, just because the weather in the spring was so crazy. We were out replanting a record number of acres, and that is not fun or something that anyone wants to experience. So, these are the types of things that we're thinking about, especially in these earlier parts of April. As it gets later into the season and soil temperatures are already warmer and things like that, you're more just worried about your forecast and soil moisture. And it's more of like a go, go, go time, whereas right now it's, okay, what are we willing to do right now? And that's kind of where we're at. So it's exciting, but it's also kind of stressful, because these things are a big deal and they lead to the success of your plants down the line in the season. So I hope that you gained some insight into what farmers are thinking about right now. And if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer more.